So the first episode of the What If Marvel series on Disney Plus started this past week. I want to talk about it. Welcome back to the DL Jones Show. I'm your host, DL Jones. So this week, the first episode of the new Marvel Disney Plus series, What If, started. And the first episode, I really liked the episode. It was basically what if Peggy Carter, took the super soldier serum and became Captain America, or in this case, Captain Carter. But yeah, let me tell you a little bit about my history with What If comics. So I used to be a big comic book fan. I've always been a comic fan as far as liking the superheroes and the stories and stuff, but I haven't actually read comics except for the occasional one here and there since I was a kid, But when I was a kid, I used to be a collector. I had a good collection, a decent collection of certain ones I was really proud of. But I remember back then, I used to look at the Marvel What If comics with a certain type of fondness. I kind of like, which this is going to be a weird way of describing things, but I kind of like looked at, as far as comics, I kind of looked at like the main continuity of comics as if that was real life, which of course back then I was probably 10, 11 years old. But I kind of looked at the main continuity as if that was real life. And the What If comics was sort of like make-believe. That was like the stuff that happened that was like make-believe compared to the stuff that's in real life. Now, come to the day, I kind of still look at things the same way. Of course, I know it's comics. I know it's not real life, but I do kind of look at like the main continuity in the Marvel comics, the DC comics, and the MCU as the real life. When it comes to comic book world, those are real life. That's what happens for real. That is history or whatever. And when it comes to the What If thing, I kind of thought that it was going to be the same situation where when I watched the What If shows, it was going to be like a make-believe, like the make-believe version, all of the wild ideas you get in your head, what would happen if those, put those ideas on the screen or on the comic book page. But do I still feel that way after watching the first episode? I'll let you know, but we're going to talk about the episode first. Before I continue on, if you like to see more videos and stuff about movie reviews, TV show reviews, Netflix, in the theater, whatever, make sure you click the subscribe button down below. I always post a lot of videos. I try to do at least one video weekly, sometimes 2 or 3. But go ahead and subscribe to this channel, the DL Jones Show, and make sure you give it a thumbs up, a like, so this video could get shown to more people. Okay, so I'm not going to do any spoilers. I'm just going to basically give a gist of what this episode was about because I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was pretty cool. So basically, this episode takes place, it kind of looks like it's in the same time era, same time frame as the Captain America movie, the very first Captain America Marvel movie, takes place back then. You have, Captain Steve Rogers. Well, I guess he wasn't Captain, but Steve Rogers, he's the scrawny Steve Rogers that we all remember from the beginning of the first Avenger, Captain America, the first Avenger. He's scheduled to take the super soldier serum, and then as they're about to do the serum and as they're getting ready, there's an attack. Steve Rogers kind of get hurt or something like that, but they have a small chance to do this. The process has already started. Someone needed to be in that machine. Steve Rogers couldn't make it. And, Peggy Carter was there because Peggy Carter was like his friend and was accompanying him and was like sort of like being there for moral support. So Peggy, she just was like, we can't waste it. So we can't waste it. I'll get in the machine. So she gets in the machine and what do you know? She comes out of the machine, strong, got all of the skills and superhuman strength and speed as Captain America did. But of course it's her. And they start calling her, Captain Carter, for Agent Carter or Peggy Carter, So basically the whole episode, which I think was about 40 minutes. I'm gonna have to check on the time. When I find the correct time, if I'm wrong, you'll see it here on the screen somewhere. But which is basically about 40 minutes, I want to guess, of basically almost redoing similar things that happened in the first Captain America movie, but this time, instead of Steve Rogers being Captain America doing all of the stuff, it's Peggy Carter being Captain America doing all of the stuff. And I just thought it was pretty cool. It was a pretty interesting thing to watch, you know, to watch this happen, to see how it is. Of course, they added the perspective of, you know, back in that time frame, you know, women didn't fight in the front lines or anything like that. So that came up a little bit, and she kind of like had to, you know, go above and beyond to prove herself towards people because they still had that kind of mentality back in those time frame. But yeah, but it was pretty good. You know, it was a lot of action in it. The animation was pretty good. I would say that in the scenes where it's like a lot of walking, talking scenes, the animation kind of wasn't that impressive, but the action when it came to, you know, checking out the animation, when it came to the action scenes, that was where it really shined. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. But yeah, you know, when I was watching this show, I was like, you know, she kind of seemed a little more powerful than Captain America was. And maybe I'm just not remembering correctly how it was in the movies, you know, but she just seemed like, you know, all out powerful, you know, she was all that, you know. But then, you know, of course, Steve Rogers, he didn't get the potion, but, you know, he did get a chance to step up and play a role, which well, of course I said I'm not going to spoil it, but, you know, he wasn't left out, you know. He didn't become Captain America, but he wasn't left out of the whole everything, you know, saving people and everything too. So that was interesting. I thought that was really interesting. That kind of took me by surprise. I didn't see that part coming, you know. I just thought, you know, I guess I should have thought something because I was like, you know, if he's not Captain America, you know, Steve Rogers was always Steve Rogers. He was always, you know, that kid with heart that fight to the end. Even though he was tiny and small, you know, he still was that guy, you know. So, you know, they gave him a role to play, which was also pretty cool. So now I get to the point where I said that, you know, about the make-believe and everything. And towards the end of this episode, I started thinking about things and I was like, yeah, you know, this doesn't seem, I don't get that same feel as it being make-believe like I remember having when I used to read the What If comics back when I was a kid. And the reason why is because this kind of feels like instead of it being a make-believe story, you know, it kind of feel like it was just a story, especially coming off the Loki series, which if you want to see, you know, all of my thoughts on all of the Loki series, I did a episode recap, you know, episode by episode recap. Go ahead and I got a link right there somewhere. Go ahead and click that if you want to check that out. You know, I recapped every episode of the Loki series, Marvel Loki. But anyway, after coming off that series, how they introduce the different timelines and the variants and all of that stuff, this episode kind of gave me a feeling of this was just a different timeline, not just a make-believe fantasy story. You know what I'm saying? Like I kind of felt like that this Captain Carter that was created in this What If episode, I can see them bringing this over, you know, especially with all of the multiverse stuff that's coming up. I can see them bringing this character over in the vein of how they brought Miles Morales over to the main Marvel continuity. You know, I can see them doing that. It seemed like they actually set it up so that it can be that way. And it started making me think that maybe this whole series is based on a bunch of different variants of characters that could potentially be brought over to the main MCU and not necessarily just what if fantasy stories based on wild ideas of characters, you know. And I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of like that. I kind of like the idea of things being, you know, like a fantasy, like it's never happened, but what if, you know. But if it's just like they're just showing a different timeline and these are just variants that could potentially be brought over into the main MCU, I don't know how I feel about it. It might be good. I don't know. You know, I had to watch a few more episodes and think about it a little bit more before I can come to terms with that, if that's the case, if that is a possibility and how I feel about that. But anyway, but yeah, I like the show so far. I'm not going to do every episode recap. I'm not going to do a recap for every episode like I did with a couple of the other Marvel Disney Plus series. But I did want to hop on and give my thoughts on this episode. I really liked it. I think it's a good start, and I'm curious to see where they're going to go next. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. That I'd say go watch it. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. I didn't spoil it, so you could, you know, you could still watch it and still have the same enjoyment just like I did when I watched it for the first time. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next time.